Everybody, and today for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we are reviewing the Frankenstein experiment. Sorry I haven't uploaded it right away, but we're here to talk about it. We are at the third part of the Tmnt Halloween special, even though it's not Halloween, it's January, but that's okay, we're reviewing it like we do every week. But this is where the Turtles are in the 1800s of Ronette, as they are trying to find Victor Frankenstein and prevent Frankenstein from being recruited by Savanti Romero. But things take a turn because Dracula ends up meeting up with Frankenstein first. And he ends up brainwashing him, because Dracula can do that, into creating Frankenstein. But the Turtles don't notice. But as this is going on, the Turtles end up in the forest, traveling through it, but they don't like it too much. But then they start to get visions, because Savanti Romero and the Mummy are using the staff to mind control what they're seeing. So the Turtles end up getting visions. Leo ends up seeing, multiple versions of Shredder attack him. We see Donnie get attacked by Vampire Casey and April. Mikey gets attacked by Pizza Face. So yeah, it's weird to see him in this season. And Ronette is fearing of her banishment because of the whole using the time sector, even though there's only, I don't think there's any left. But they're all battling their demons. And I like how in each scene, Leo ends up fighting every variation of Shredder. Original Shredder, Super Shredder, Zombie Shredder. It's cool to see them again. But yeah, apparently they just used archive sound of Kevin Michael Richardson's voice in this episode, but that's okay. And I like how Mikey acknowledges, he's the first one to acknowledge that they're just messing with their heads. Good for Mikey. But he ends up defeating Pizza Face, even though Pizza Face in the show was all revealed to be a dream. But somehow he's made his way back to Mikey. And they all fight off their demons, and then they decide to go to the next day to Frankenstein's castle, where they do meet Victor Frankenstein and Igor, if you know the Frankenstein lore. So they are trying to invent, of course, Frankenstein from being born. And it's nice to see Donnie team up with Victor Frankenstein, because I feel like that's a good dynamic, because they're both scientists. They love science, and yeah, and I do like how Ronette ends up telling them, she has to tell the guy that they got a rare disease, and that's why they look like turtles. And Leo ends up telling Victor Frankenstein that they're time travelers, and Ronette has to slap him because they can't do that because they're in the past, which makes sense. It's honestly surprising that she had to tell Leo that, because that sounds like something Mikey would say. But they do end up finding a way to bring back to life Frankenstein, and that's what happens. He comes to life, and he looks freaky and cool, of course, as this version of Frankenstein. I forget who he's voiced by, but it's pretty interesting. And the Victor Frankenstein ends up calling his creation a freak, and it causes him to walk away. But that's where they're ambushed by Raph, the Dracula, Savanti Romero, and it leads to a big fight in Frankenstein's castle. But Frankenstein ends up going on top of the Frankenstein tower. But while that's all going on, Leo ends up, I think, staking Dracula. But of course he survives and gets away. But that's where they encounter Raph, where he tries to do whatever it takes to bite the turtles and have them join his side. But I think Donnie's able to take him out by using his little staff to burn Raph a little. And he ends up dropping him into a pit of fire. And Raph doesn't die since he isn't fully a vampire yet, but he manages to chain up Raph. But while that's all going on, we do get a battle between Ronette and Savanti, and she ends up using the staff on him. And because of that, she's able to get a little bit of a charge left, where she's going to use to get them back home. But I think Savanti ends up I think, recruiting Frankenstein, even though Victor tried to talk him out and say he's sorry for calling him a monster, saying that you are my creation, my son. And so that's a nice heartwarming moment. That's probably the only moment I remember more fondly of this episode. But I do like at the end where Savanti basically has gathered all the monsters. The werewolf, Dracula, the mummy, Frankenstein. He's got his monster team. It reminds me of I don't know if you've seen the movie Monster Squad. If you've seen that movie, comment below. But basically that movie is about a group of kids going up against a group of monsters. So that's what vibe I got from that moment. But that's where the episode ends. As the turtles got Raph, and they can finally go home and figure out a way. And they were actually going to use Frankenstein's devices to find a way to cure Raph, but because of the fire and destruction going on during the battle, they were unable to. But Mikey reassures Donnie that they are probably able to cure Raph. But it sucks for Raph that he's a vampire. He might fully turn, but because of plot armor, we know he's going to turn back. But yeah, so that's this episode. We've already reviewed it. We only got one episode left. But this episode was a lot of fun. I liked seeing the Frankenstein and all the monsters come together. I did like the dream the sort of vision dream sequence with the turtles. But yeah. So I don't know what else to talk about for this episode. It was kind of just like a quick episode to get through. I'd probably just give it a 7 out of 10. But you could just also tell that the writers are having fun with this episode. Just having a Halloweenish monster TMNT crossover. But that's kind of what this season's about. It's just kind of meant to be a fun season. Since they've already finished all the storylines of the Turtles versus the Krang, Shredder. Well, sort of. But this, they can just go all nuts with it. Just do crazy Elseworld stories, time travel stories. But yeah, I look forward to talking about the last episode for sure. And then after that, there's only 3 episodes left. The last crossover with the 80s Turtles. So that should be interesting. So that being said, thanks for watching, and Turtle!